welcome. Thank you, Vida, for staying. And hopefully you took this time to center yourself to be in this space. So one of the first questions I wanted to invite you is basically introduce yourself and how do you actually participate in the CoLab? What circles? Where do you show up? What is the CoLab world for you? And Amy, after Vida, you can take on.
Thank you so much, Jyo. So I came to the CoLab as a Next Steps contributor. I had been hearing about the CoLab for maybe 2 or 3 years before that, through some people who are very active here. I guess what's interesting for me is that in that 2 or 3 years, I never got the sense that it was a space I could just join. So for whatever reason, I don't know why I imagined it as being a bit exclusive. And then the next steps was like an explicit invitation. So that helped me to come in. So of course, next steps, Emergent Festival, we also have a small project. So I definitely think the presence of funding was important because that's like my entry point. But then I find really like the funding circle, nice jobs, like there's a lot of other spaces where I find like a lot of value, and they try to like pay attention to a few things that are going on. But I don't think I'm in, maybe if there's circles, I feel like maybe I'm still on some periphery spaces via the projects that I'm in. And I'm not like, for instance, in like communications or welcome gardening or somewhere there. I just sort of pop in and out and visit those spaces as I see value as well.
Thank you. Amy?
So my name is Aimee Fenech. I've been in the CoLab, so it feels like a long time, like a few years now. So it was maybe about 4 years now in total. And how I participate in the CoLab at the moment, I am present in a lot of places. So I'm in the welcome gardening, I'm in the digital circle, which was actually my first home, the digital circle. And then I co-founded with other people the funding circle, and now I hold that space with Tanya. And I was very active in the Capacity Plus funded project, which was the one before the Next Steps. So when the Next Steps came around, I also participated in the Next Steps. Yeah, that's basically how I participate. I must say, yes, because I came in through the Capacity Plus project at the time, the funding was also a bit of a gateway for me, but then I quickly found my home in other voluntary spaces as well. So I became more active with time, and also as I grew in confidence in a space that I didn't know. So that was an interesting journey.
It's a similar story for me too. I came in right around the ending of the Capacity Plus project, I think. And I came in as an intern shadowing one of the people. And then I found my way into Next Steps project. I've co-founded Minimum Viable Academy, which is supposed to and centered around providing training. Hence the part of this CoLab training program. And I'm also Emergent Festival coordinator, and also within the Welcome Gardening team, administrator, and do other stuff. So most importantly, the reason I'm drawn is just showing up and creating effective relationships, where I can be fully myself without being judged, without that imposition, is what I find myself within CoLab most often than not. Thank you. That's the round one. I want to pause for a second. Looks like one of the persons wants to join.
Was it Kate? Because she said she would come a bit late, maybe.
Not Kate, but Nitsikilelo. He doesn't have the Zoom link, he says.
Oh.
So is it?
Oh, I
invite?
thought it was I can send him the link.
Yeah, I can send
that's
it too.
okay.
I just wanted us to pause for a second.
Yeah, then he can answer also the first.
Yes. Greetings, everyone, and I greet you. I'm Kulu Nzigelo Kolosa. I'm from South Africa, from Ikwelo Hilux Collective. I'm from Bushbuckridge in Free State. And I participate in a collab because we are doing a landless research by Ikwelo. I'm working there with Mevida, Dr. Fikile, and Leo. So there we are researching, and we research about the land, private land, maybe ancestors' land, and it's a very nice space that task that we have created. The space is very beautiful because one gets to engage with individuals maybe who bought their land maybe to plant their medicines, and how difficult it is, and
We can't hear you, Mukulu.
that's also it passes to another generation. Yes, so it is a great space to be in. It's a very lovely research because it has emotions there, because I've learned that some of the growers, people in the space, they've been hurt, and they still hurt because of some other land was taken away from them, so that they use land to by colonizers. So basically, but what I get out of everything is that the research that we've been doing was that people are looking forward to access for land, and unfortunately you find that also. I'm just sharing this, that in the cities, the land, there's land, municipal land, the land that is not used, but people also, they feel like, we're not gonna do that, but others, they do that, and they live with that, and they feed their families, and others can even they can feed themselves. So, but it was very nice. It is a very nice journey that I'm into, and every time, because I usually, now we speak about maybe something that I've engaged, people that I've engaged with them, and in the process, people that were very emotional because the research sometimes speaks about why others, they move away from their family. In terms of someone I had an interview with, their parents were racist, and now they are not close to the parents because now they are actually, they don't, they believe in humanity, Ubuntu. So those elements, people are in this research about land, you find things that are deep, that are even touching people's life, because I think it goes together because it's what they are and who they are. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mukulu. I see you participating in the Emergent Festival project, and thank you for showing up on Slack. So thank you for participating in this session as well. I'll move us to the second phase of questions, where how did you, which Vida, you'd already talked about it. How did you find your way here? Who was instrumental in your finding your way here? And how long have you been in the CoLab? What helped you become active? I know funding was brought on, which was essentially all three of us, and I'm sure Mukulu, that could have helped, not giving answers. But and also, if you were to go back to your past self when you started with the CoLab, what is that one advice you would give to navigate somebody new to the CoLab, to help them navigate the space? So the questions are in the chat, so feel free to pick them up in the order that you would want. I would invite Vida, if you want to start us off.
Okay,
Thanks, Joe.
thank you.
Yeah, I think when I think about my CoLab journey in this space, normally I think about my start in the CoLab as sort of the beginning of last year. A bit before that, Amy and I were talking, and I think we met somewhere else, Amy, and I was like, "Oh my goodness, you should see this ICAF project," and you were like, "No, I know, Andrew, I know all about ICAF." So, it was quite interesting. I think, Amy, as a personality, you also bring people in, and that's one of the roles of the vision holder in a space. And you definitely, as a person, as a leader, as a project manager, you were someone that was really helpful dynamic. And then, Joe, you've come in, and there've been lots of other people that have played a role in that. Kate, I can think, has been very instrumental. But there's been quite a few people, I think, especially, again, people who are part of Next Steps project. But what I'm recalling is I thought the CoLab was so interesting, but I didn't think that I could enter the space. I had, as I said, this image of exclusivity, and I'm wondering what we could do to change that, because it definitely impacted when I came in. I didn't want to step on anyone's toes. I didn't want to take up too much space, be too loud, be in too many spaces. And I sort of just observed and did what I had to do for our project, in terms of reporting and so on. So the accountability cycles and stuff didn't really help to draw me in. But I wish I hadn't seen it as this exclusive group of people that already had very strong established working relationships, and I was sort of an outsider to that group. So I wish I'd somehow known better the culture. That would have been really helpful for me.
Thank you. Amy?
I had a kind of interesting experience. So I found my way here through a recommendation from Gemma, who is the education officer at the Permaculture Association of Britain. That was through, I'd signed up as a teacher with PAB after I'd completed my PTC. And I was going through quite a difficult time in my life at the time. I had been pivoting my career from wealth management into something new. And I had been retraining to do some web development, and I wanted to bridge that gap between what I wanted to do for permaculture teaching into the digital space. And Gemma recommended I join the CoLab and have a look at the digital circle. So I came in. At the time, there wasn't really any, or there was, but there wasn't so much infrastructure like we have now and so much help. So there was, for example, no monthly onboarding calls or anything like this. But to join, you had to have a meeting with Philip first. So Philip was holding that role of welcoming people in, and discussing with them what they're interested in, so that he could do what we do right now in the welcoming circle. And that was a big help. I remember having quite a strong experience with Philip. We really bonded over what I had to say, and how he didn't give me too many things. Like, he didn't say, you should do that, you should do this, and here's where you go. He didn't give me all the answers. But I think that's also, for me, was quite good not to have all the answers. And I started getting involved in places where I felt more naturally confident with, which was in that time the digital circle. And from there, I got to know Neynad, and then Neynad helped me get my first freelance job with a client that was within the CoLab. So him, Philip, Nenad, Philip, and I were like a good little team. And then I worked with Yuan, who was also part of the digital circle. And that's how it's really started. For the Capacity Plus also was nothing like Next Steps is today. For Next Steps now, we have parameters. Everyone knows what's expected of them because it's documented and you can ask questions. And there's a little bit more direction. With Capacity Plus, there was a kind of committee and they would decide whether a project would go ahead or not and how much for, and it was all a bit on the fly. So we learned from that experience and we changed it. But for me, it was quite interesting because I felt, as a newcomer, I felt the fear of the not knowing the answers, and there is no policy for this and there's no policy for that. And at the same time, it was very exciting because I could be a voice to create that, to create the policy and to try and document stuff so that other people who came after then didn't have that much uncertainty, that you could, read a document, ask a person a question, and you knew basically where to go. So it was like being in a kind of a new person and at a party where, just like Vida was saying, there's groups and they all know each other and I'm the new person. But actually I felt very welcome. So in any group that I wanted to go in and have a chat with, I felt relatively welcome. I remember at the time we had a steward circle, and the steward circle was relatively closed. So this was the one space I never really felt at home because they didn't have like open meetings or anything like this. Now we have more open structures and we have transitioned to a kind of general circle setup rather than having people as stewards. So that was an interesting process for me. I would say, I think we have transitioned so far from that story that nowadays there's more signposting and so on. But just like Vida highlighted, Vida came in a bit later, we still have quite a while to go so that people feel comfortable. And this is why sharing one story is kind of important. And as someone who can see in all the corners or in some spaces where there's more light because you hold the knowledge, so you're in the light, then you as an established person can help a new person feel more comfortable and invite them into the opportunities that you see could match their skills and interests. And that's, I take this to heart. I take it as a responsibility. Philip brought me in and showed me the way, and I take it as my responsibility to show Jyo in when she came in, to show Vida in, and to invite people to step into their confidence and their skills so that there's more lights, no? Because it's also viral. So if I help 2 or 3 people to me, then there's 3 more people who can do the same with other new members. So yeah, that's me going on a bit, but there you go, my story.
For me, I was very active in Global Regeneration CoLab, and that's where I met Ninad. Actually, I met Ninad even before that. But from there, transitioning to PC CoLab was like a crossing over a better bridge, literally crossing over a bridge. Ninad brought me on, and like he introduced me to like, hey, this is what is happening, and then at the time, I really don't remember the job I did, but it had something to do with capacity plus project. As an intern, I was to, oh my god, it feels like ages ago, but I was shadowing Naomi in her job, and I was the transition point for her to move on and take on some of the things that she wasn't doing. And it had to do more with the facilitation, which I love, facilitation and that aspects of giving myself in service. And that led on to just meeting you, Amy, as the within the Capacity Plus. I think you were the project manager, if I don't remember correctly about the roles. Feels like ages ago, 2021, end of 2021, pretty much. And I met you, and then we got to talking and finding intersections, and then Ninad, you and I started talking, and then we formed MBA with Stefan Morales from Greater Than, and we wanted to create this. We went through the whole process of team canvas and all of that, and in doing those processes, I discovered more of who I wanted to collaborate with, and I felt that energy was alive in CoLab for me. And I was also invited into listening in digital, so like gradually different circles started opening. And then I started looking out for some opportunities where Emergent Festival opened up, and it was predominantly about helping people be successful in their projects, and that's what I thrive, creating forums for that, facilitation for people to talk to each other and celebrate each other, see each other, value each other, appreciate each other, what they are doing, and finding resources and help that way. So Emergent Festival was completely an aligned role for me as a coordinator, and then that was 2022, similarly in 2023 too. But in 2022, we started with offering sessions that I actually was very passionate about. I am at the intersection, I say intersection of humans and systems. So anything humans and anything systems, that really brings me alive. And I found Minimum Viable Academy as part of the CoLab training program, a channel for me to give back what I could and what I can, from the years of experience in the corporate world. So that's how it all started. One aspect of what helped me become more active is just these. Number one, I will say, is the relationships, nurturing relationships that I have, and which allow me the freedom to be myself, which in turn help me be more creative and more innovative, because all that, the drama, the baggage, that emotional intensity of me showing up, all that was taken off when I could have those relationships. So thereby all these projects and co-creation, and even when things got difficult, it was the togetherness in CoLab that actually I love. And I find that the support, and there is a lot of grace and compassion for the whole human to show up. So I would say that is what helps me. I wouldn't say be active, but come back to CoLab again and again and again, because there is always that support for me to be successful in life. And I hope to give the same to people as well. I try my best to do that. The advice I would say, the advice that I would say I would give, for the mini me of 2021, I would say is, get out of your comfort zone, I suppose. I'm not a networker connector. I could have done well with like making one-on-ones and the closing triangles and things like that, and I have not allowed myself to give that joy of creating relationships outside projects. And I would say those would be nice now when I look back. So yeah, get out of your comfort zone and reach out and have your one-on-ones. I'm not much of a I have stranger anxiety. I'm like 2-year-old when it comes to human beings. So that would be a good suggestion, I think. Ukulu, you are ready?
I think I'm ready. I think I'm ready. Are you comfortable with not seeing my video?
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. How did I find my way in here? Regarding invite from Mevida, and just for people who are interested, maybe we can come up with something in this space of CoLab. And I just let people to raise their hands, and finally I saw that this is an invitation that I need to. I don't know what's happening, but I feel like it's a good space. We just jump in just like that. But it's not, how long has it been? It's not been so long. I'm not sure if it's 7 months or 9 months. I don't recall the time where we started with this particular research. What helped me to be more active? It's support. It's support. It's also mentorship. Uh, Mevida has been very supportive also, also contributing if I need to come to the meetings, or support data, support knowledge, and support with a lot of things, to grow in this space. And definitely the support that I've been receiving from her, I've grown in the space, and I'm learning and unlearning a lot of things. And yeah, what advice I can give my past self, uh, navigating this space? Basically, this I will tell my past self that, hey, yeah, man, the future is great because you're meeting good people who understand humanity. What I mean is because the space is full with love, and you learn and unlearn a lot of things, and you tend to meet a lot of people, and you get great advices, around the world, and also from Vida. So this is how I feel, and this is how it's been my journey. And just now it reflects that this is actually one of the most peaceful spaces, to be in, and to grow that inner person of yours that, that understand nature and love nature. Thank you so much.
Yo, let's all take a deep breath. That looks like a long journey. All of us, doesn't have to be time or whatever, but like the intent, the depth of navigation and finding ourselves. So I invite you to take a deep breath, and then I'm going to switch the energy a little bit here. And my question, just for introducing a little bit of play, is if CoLab was a body of water, which would it be, according to you, the way that you see and that you navigate or swim around? If CoLab was a body of water, which one would it be? Amy?
I think for me, a river, because it's bendy, it travels, it sometimes swells up and sometimes dries up a bit. So it's like a very changeable body of water. I also like this idea of the edges, like how much grows on the edges of the riverbank, and the amount of diversity of like creatures and animals and insects that go to the river, to the riverbanks. And yes, like there's always that fear that the river will dry up and not come back or change course completely. But that's also part of the process for me. So yeah, I think the river.
Thank you. Vida?
Yeah, I saw something like a wetland or a series of interconnected dams. Also, the river came to me, but it feels like circles are maybe different spaces, and there's like a community that sits in different spaces, but they're all very interconnected and they travel between one another. So yeah, something like that. It's a very cool ecosystem. yeah, so I got this image of like a few connected bodies. Some places the energy is slower, some places the energy is higher. Some places it's like rapids and lots of people doing lots of stuff. But I think that for me.
Thank you. For me, it's growing up in India, we used to have those mud pots where you put water and it keeps the water cool. I don't know, have you ever experienced? It's like it's made. I think there is some clay or mud pots that are made for especially summer, and you always are guaranteed a cool tumbler of water, cool pitcher of water. That's guaranteed. Doesn't matter when. But there is always someone filling it. I've never seen a mud pot that was empty, except for cleaning, of course. There's always somebody filling it. There's always somebody taking like quenching their thirst. I just didn't know if it was my grandmother who filled it or my brother or myself for that pitcher of water. If I was the one who brought it from the tap or the well, poured the water into that pot, but I always was guaranteed a pitcher of water, cold water, especially when it was hot and when I was thirsty. So I kind of relate CoLab in my life to that. Is every conversation I have had, it's always, even when I wasn't in the headspace to have that conversation, I could come into that space with whatever I had going on. So the level of thirst didn't matter if the analogy is held too tightly, but the water was still there. So yeah, Bukalu.
So Gozani, if CoLab was a body of water, which would it be? You know, I'm listening to you and I'm thinking this answer of mine here. You know, I'm thinking river, because the river, uh, it's nature, and CoLab connects you to nature. And for me, how it is also, it reminds me where I come from, It actually inspires me to do more in this space because it actually taking me back to my roots and remembering, how my ancestors, other things they used to do to keep healthy and to stay out of sicknesses and stuff. This space why I say that, when I say river, because it's very next to it's nature, and wherever there's a river, you will see there's life of plants there. And eventually it's part of us because even in town, in the rurals, where I come from, we even take water from the river to plant. I mean, in Zulu we say "Ukunkcenkceshela," to sprinkle to make sure that the plants grow. So basically, uh, that's how I see it. For me, this space is like a river. It connects me to who I am and reminds me where I take my energy and reminds me a lot of things because river, even as Africans, it does a lot of things, especially in this season that we are getting into. When there's rain coming in, we believe that you go there to get to be alive. So is river. It's all about that, and this space reminds me of it, and this is how I feel. This is how I feel. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Our next serious question. I mean, I thought the body of water was also serious, but is when did you know that you were meant to be here, and why? How did it feel in your body, Vida?
That's quite a question. I have a few moments popping up as you ask it. There's something about the reporting not being tedious and awful and actually being very useful, and seeing people trying to design the reports to be even more useful, seeing the amount of like love and care and energy that had been put into the policies and the canvases and the way the Slack was designed, and just like to think that someone had taken so much care to sort of nurture the garden that I was walking into. Yeah, I don't know. I just felt immensely cared for and loved and supported pretty quickly. So yeah, definitely that outsider perspective changed very quickly as well, because I saw that my voice mattered. I had the opportunity to participate in governance like decisions and to vote on things. And of course there were a lot of things that already as a newcomer I had to accept, but they were all so well designed, and they just made so much sense. But the fact that there was like, yeah, just opportunity. I think if I must pin a specific moment, maybe the first Emergent Festival. Just, I think, what a great idea. And to hear everyone's pitching their ideas and to be given the opportunity to vote on ideas. It was like so much fun having a little bit of money I could distribute. It was just like really a fun activity, but also with like, you know, real world impacts. And I thought it was a great design. So yeah, I would say that definitely like a sense of like giddy excitement, which is difficult to create in an online space.
Thank you. Amy?
I think I had this one specific moment where I was having a little bit conflict with someone, some other CoLab member, and I organized a meeting with Philip at the time, who was kind of overseeing what I was doing in the same team. And he said, "But why why are you getting so bothered about this? Like, you're doing good. Don't feel like an imposter. You're welcome here. Your voice matters. And if someone disagrees with you, it's okay. Like, they can have a different opinion and it doesn't invalidate your work." And I thought, this is the kind of place I want to be in, because my input is respected, I'm heard, and it is okay to have conflict. It doesn't mean that I'm going to be removed or that someone is going to be uncivil to me, you know, that we can respectfully disagree with each other and still be able to do the work. And that for me, that moment, that difficult moment, because I was thinking, oh, maybe I don't belong here, because this is, you know, the attitude that this person had. But Philip was able to reassure me, and for this I'm very grateful. And just like Vida said, like the creativity, the room for creativity and being able to participate, and that room to participate, not only is it allowed, but it's encouraged. It is part of a CoLab member's responsibility to participate in decision making. This is really important to me, and I wouldn't be here if that wasn't the case, I think.
Thank you, Amy. Gosh, I don't know. I think there are lots of moments and they continue to happen even today. So I don't know when was the moment I knew I wanted to be. Maybe it's my outsider syndrome that I'm fighting right now. I would say in general, it's the moments that I am called in to be in collaboration, in conversations. It's the moments where I'm not thinking how it would impact the person, but I am thinking how it would impact the ecosystem in general, which like I'm that big picture person. And when that is allowed, when that is co-creative, when that is not shushed, I think those are the moments that me coming, like, how do I want to do when somebody invites me into that conversation. I think I would say that was the first time I felt like, oh yeah, I want to play here more. And that happened within the first few weeks of me being in the CoLab. So yeah, I would say that. Mukulu?
Yeah, I'm actually listening to the question. I'm listening to every speaker here and yourself also. I'm like, "Ish, I cannot be saying Vida, thank you so much. I don't know how to put it, but when I think about this question, uh, maybe that comes to my mind, like just come to my mind because without her, I was not gonna be like understanding what is happening, and sometimes I lose it. Sometimes she's here, so it's just been a long journey, and a lot of things that just happened, and they are happening even today as we speak. And that's what I'm grateful for. And I know I've never thought, this is my space. I was not sure that this is space. But I'm not gonna lie to you, with the love, with the support, with the mentorship, with everything that I'm receiving, I love every moment working or taking my time in this space. Thank you so much. I think I don't have a lot to say, but for me, I just appreciate the presence of Vida in this place. Because she was not around, I don't think I would have been maybe smiling in the present moment, and even developing my home where in my ancestors' place. She gave me that courage also, because I believe that access to land is very important thing, so that you can have a good space and live and develop the community wherever you are. You might be in rural or township. I'm very grateful, and to learn that we've spoken with also Vida that we were born in the same town, and my father and her father worked for the same company, but we only recovered that year. So this space connects me to who I am, connects to my ancestors. I didn't know that Vida came from Virginia, but was born there. I was born there. Where she was staying, my grandfather was staying there before he can go to acquire land for farming in Bushbuck Ridge. That's where my father was working as a carpenter in a mine in the Free State. So it connects me, and this is why I appreciate. And when I know that we're involved in the project here, I become spontaneous because of what it reveals to me. I see future revealing itself. I see happiness revealing itself to me in this place. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Well, the last question we have is, what are the biggest challenges that you see CoLab facing in the immediate future, and what might we do together to overcome them? So this is basically the part of journey that we are wanting to change and I wouldn't say control, but like more like in control of the change, the way that we want to shift. And how can we do that together? I think that's the most biggest intention of this particular question. So Rita, do you want to come in? I know you are the first one to go on the round without giving you much time and space to think.
Yeah, you keep me on my toes. Yeah, I have to think quickly as you speak. Here's the thing, is I would love that CoLab would continue regardless, in a lot of strength. But the engagement in CoLab is a bit worrying to me. That it feels like, I don't know if people are tired or I don't know what it is. It feels almost like people's personal lives and then they don't have the time to engage here. And I worry about that engagement metric when it's linked to funding. So of course next year, at the end of next year, that's sort of, you know, I see it right now, if I must put like a fearful lens on, as almost like a cliff edge. And it's just to say, are we going to build a bridge? Are we going to jump? Are we going to fly? What's going to happen after that cliff edge? And what does that really look like? So I think that's for me something that's a bit yeah, a bit of a challenge. And I guess in terms of what we can do together is look at the ways that we can build bridges and parachutes to continue the really valuable work that's happening here. And I think, you know, Joe, we've spoken a bit in the educational project about like marketing, repurposing, getting the message out there, getting the story out there. And of course, you know, the work that the funding circle is doing. So looking for new sources of funding. But my instinct is that it's not only a funding issue. There is a both and that has to happen. But yeah, I think that's good.
Thank you. Amy?
Yeah, so I think the way I see the biggest challenge for the CoLab right now, this coming around the corner, is the end of the Next Steps project after next year. And I think we would do well as a community, as a group of people, to really examine, especially the people who are benefiting directly from the funding and from what is happening now. We need to pull together and come up with some innovative solutions that work for us, people who are in it, who have been putting this energy together to find some solutions for this. I think in general, for all projects that exist in the world, relying on funding alone is not financially sustainable. So trying to find ways to make our offerings and our work financially sustainable as possible, maybe by developing micro enterprises or looking to use our collective skills in a way that can move us forward into a new model that is going to be needed to continue. I think that's important. Having said this, I also understand people's lives are what they are. We have had some people transition that were before very active CoLab members, and they've had to take full-time jobs, for example, because they've had children and, you know, in the family. So their family financial security is impacted by fluctuating work. And that's the life of the freelancer, isn't it? Really, we as freelancers, we kind of take risks and make gambles and invest our time and money into developing these opportunities. But then it comes a point where individually, as people, we have to decide, okay, here's how much I can put in. And if I don't make X over X amount of time, then I have to look elsewhere. We do have resources, like the Nice Jobs channel is a good resource for people to have diversity in income. And over there is posted different jobs that are from one-off jobs to full-time or part-time remote jobs usually. But of course, there's also CoLab micro enterprises that have been developed along these last years. I mean, since I've been here, there's been at least 3 or 4 small micro enterprises developed. So there is room for people to grow those micro enterprises, but also to make new ones. And I think the success of these projects and micro enterprises depends also on how well CoLab members support each other to promote those efforts. And that's really a big ask, no? Because we're asking people to come together as a community, which is beyond a funded project, which is most people why they're here, to deliver on their little projects, but we're asking them to step into the ecosystem mentality. like not only what is good for Amy as a person, individually for myself, but also what could push us into the next iteration. I think that there is a lot of potential in the CoLab because collectively we have achieved a lot, and we may be perhaps be willing and ready to take on the challenge of even bigger funded projects. I'm talking about infrastructure projects like in the millions for climate action, because permaculture speaks to climate action directly. So there's a lot of potential that I see there, but not without better self-organization and more commitment. And I think that's the hard part. That's the challenge, the commitment, and how to find the balance between what we can commit on an individual basis and how that commitment speaks to a collective action. So yeah, challenges, but lots of potential. That's where I see us.
Thank you. I think the biggest challenge of the CoLab is the feeling of impermanence that continues to be like people coming. I mean, with all your metaphors of a river, right? Like there is a lot of movement, and that challenges the sustainability of continuing to be swimming in that river. You know, you need that energy to swim, right? Like sometimes you can float, but like how long are you going to float? How long? Like you still need to have that energy to swim. And I think money or funding has been that energy to push that swimming, or like to say that this is there, you can use it, right, to be part of this river. But if it is not there, even when it is there, right, there is that impermanence, and the solution of permanence doesn't feel right. um in the sense of a material sense. I am not trying to go into philosophy. The money cannot be the solution is what I'm trying to say. It cannot all be the solution. There has to be a spiritual connect that is the permanence aspect of it. That, and I would want to see where CoLab grows in the spirit, in the essence of what CoLab is. I would want to see that because the reason I'm drawn to permaculture, even when I'm not on land, I don't have a piece of land or whatever, but it's social permaculture, and it's an even much more deeper and intense layers for me is permaculture allows me to be more holistic being, as bringing my spiritual sense. So I would want to see the diversity of CoLab explore the permanence of both the individual and the ecosystem, which is much more than the material aspect of the CoLab, right? Like I know we are all talking about material aspect. I know we are all talking about reciprocation and cause and effect and this process, that project. But there is more to life than that, and maybe that's the mood that I am in. But I've been thinking about that permanence in all places I'm navigating in. What might we do together to overcome it is I don't know, the only way I know is creating spaces like these where stories are told, moments are explored, aspects of the beings are explored, the challenges are explored, the togetherness is accomplished. So that's the only way I can think about, is being in conversation, being part of each other's stories is the only way I think that humankind or any CoLab or any ecosystem is going to thrive. So I would say be part of each other's stories. And yeah. That was a woo-woo answer, but I'm okay with it. It's not a practical solution, but it's a call to action in a way of like, let's make CoLab a holistic ecosystem. Mukulu?
Oh, we lost him there.
We'll wait for a.
Hopefully he'll come back. So I'm just conscious we have about 11 minutes left. I think we
We're done.
have time for a round of checkout as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah, and I think we'll be done. with that.
Maybe we do the last bonus question as
Yeah.
a checkout. What do you think?
The bonus question is, if CoLab was an act in the circus, which would it be? If CoLab was an act in the circus.
I'm ready with my answer if you want.
Yeah,
If you want
go
me to
ahead.
tell.
Go ahead,
Yeah,
Amy.
go
Break the
ahead.
chain and let's give Peter some time.
You know the clown act where they have like this Mini Cooper and they're trying to fit in as many clowns as possible, and you think, it doesn't fit in, but then they fit more in. That's exactly the CoLab where we like. It's like, it's obviously not, it's not a comedy thing, but I think that's how it feels. Like this, we have what seems to be a container that's finite, but it seems to be always ready to take on more people. And yeah, I think that's it, the clown act.
Yeah.
Thanks, Amy. And thanks for making me, because I had the word clown in mind, and I was like, no, you can't say clown. People watching the recording are going to be very offended, you know? So, again, just breaking down my outsider syndrome. So in contrast to that, I was like, what's a better way of saying that? And I had this very graceful trapeze artist troupe, you know, who are like walking the tightrope and balancing a million things. I feel like Amy is the one on the bottom who's holding the stick with everyone in a pyramid on top, you know. So many pieces to this. And yet somehow very limited resources maybe, and very difficult thing to do, but amazing results coming from it.
Kulu, we are talking about if CoLab was a circus act, which one it would be. I've never been to circus, but I know what people in circus do. I initially had a ringmaster in my view, like, you know, the ringmaster that, and Amy, you were the ringmaster. I felt like I was that lion who would jump through the fire ring and on the other side and perfecting my act. But that just feels silly as I think about it. But it's not. It has nothing to do with the CoLab per se. It is very individual answer. But I think the whole circus, I would say, would be CoLab. It's not one act. I think there are multiple acts that are going on in the circus. I also know there is a lot of back end stuff that's going on in the circus, like of in the CoLab, like the back end, the rest and the feeding and the rejuvenation. Sometimes it feels like listening to the story, somebody is picking up shit and cleaning stuff and all of that, you know, especially in the spaces which I have seen. So I would say it's the whole circus than an act for me. And it's just what window I am peeping in, I'm gonna be exposed to that, is I would say the answer is. Looks like we lost Mikulu again. But we will close off. We are approaching the time. Thank you so much. If you want to give us feedback on how did this session happen for you and what impact it created, please, that's our feedback form, please do share it. One another request I have, inspired from what Amy was saying, pay it forward, is if you see a recording of this pop up, this link shared somewhere, please share it to 2 other people in the collab. Ask them to see it, or have your lens to, oh, this is what I have learned from it, and this is all for everybody who's watching the recording. What have you learned? And please pass it forward to 2 other people in the collab, inviting them into your own journey of what you have learned. If there are some questions in this recording that you are inspired to answer, I would sincerely ask you to participate in the Slack and share us your story. It doesn't end here in this time and space. This is the collection of people who showed up, but the journey doesn't end here. The journey of the stories do not end here. Anything you would want to say, Amy, to close us off?
I thought Vida raised her hand earlier. Did you raise your
You
hand?
did? I didn't see that.
Maybe in my mind. I
Yeah.
have
I'm happy I can
comment
read
maybe,
minds now.
which
Yeah, I invite you all
can
to
share.
share your parting thoughts as well. So thank you for joining.
Yeah, thank you, Joe. So the thought that was kind of the itch I was trying to scratch was in Amy's share about the biggest challenge, and then I think we each built on it, and I agree with pretty much, I mean, everything that was said is what I've been experiencing. And I just wanted to know if there's already a design looking at the succession plan and longevity of the CoLab that maybe I don't know where it is, or maybe it's packaged into Next Steps Forum, and just to ask around that. Or
I have been raising it in different groups informally for now, but as we go into the end of the year preparations, and the beginning of next year, which will be obviously the last year, then yes, there will be some events around this to kind of co-create together, and over time, because I don't think it's something we can do over an hour or 2, but it will be a kind of build up. Yes.
yeah, great. I'm happy to hear that, and I hope I can make it to the events, because I think there's a lot of interesting pieces there that I'm very interested in, and that I think the CoLab has a lot of strength to commit to. So thank you, Joe, and I'm glad that I did make it, and I'm glad that you stuck it out, and that we ended up having actually a really lovely session. So I appreciate that, and I'm very grateful for the 2 of you for being in that base pillar structure of the trapeze act and balancing all the things that you all balance.
Thank you, Ida. Amy, anything you want to share as your parting thoughts with this?
I go away feeling very inspired and very thankful for the people in this room who have showed up, but also for your stories. And yes, I'm happy to be in the space with you and to continue being in the space with you in the future.
Thank you. Mikulu, last thoughts.
Yes, thank you so much. Yeah, it's been a very great time. It's a very good time because each and every one of you will just, take us back, where they come from and the passion of heart. And it's been a very great time also, reviving the spirit of, permaculture. Why I say that every time when I'm here, I feel different love. I feel I'm in a different space. And, I think some other things were going to be difficult to do if I was not in the space. But, I'm happy and I'm content, and I know I just wish for great success. And thank you for everyone. It's been great to be here, to hear me myself also expressing myself in people also. The greatest medicine of my life. counting my blessing and appreciating people that are around me, open out loud in their presence. So also something that makes me feel proud. I think also as an African man, it's very important even to appreciate something that is still exists or someone that is still existing. You're appreciating them, you show them that you're really thankful for their involvement and introduction in other spaces, especially from our culture. So, you know, I didn't know that I would maybe even make maybe that to be aware that I'm very grateful and in this space of this collab. So thank you so much. This meeting was very fruitful. I mean, the healing I get every time I get in this space, the love, the experience, from each and every of you. I learn a lot of things and I learn a lot of things. That is my reflection. Thank you so much. I really appreciate being here.
Thank you, thank you. Thank you everybody for watching. Thank you for joining us. Another time, another day. Thank you. Bye.
So everyone.
I would like to take a moment to think back to the beginning of your journey in the CoLab. And the prompts are around this, around how did you come in, which way, and who introduced you. So take a moment to access that memory. And hello and welcome, Rogers. Thank you for introducing yourself. I would invite you to stay within the listening space before we start our rounds, and then we will get back to you and invite you to speak out when we get there. And I think Jyo will paste for us the first round of questions that we have. We're going to go around in a circle, starting with Eileen, if you are comfortable kicking us off, and then Hans, and then I can go, and then I invite Jyo also, maybe if she wants to go, and then we can go with Rogers as the newest person in the CoLab here.
The first, to warm up the space. Who are you and how do you participate in CoLab? Which circles do you find yourself participating, drawn to? All that is welcome. How do you participate in CoLab?
Okay, I shall start us off. My name is Aline, and I started in the CoLab just observing, and then I went on to work in the translation circle for 2 years. And since then, I am part of the general circle, monthly meetings, checking in with everybody else's project. I have also been working with Jyo on the Emergent Festival last year and had 2 little projects underneath the Emergent Festival. One was about wastewater and legislation and how we can make it more visible that we can actually work with wastewater. And the other one is still ongoing, actually, in its 2nd year this year under the Emergent Festival, which is communicating permaculture in Spanish. How can we make it so that in the Spanish-speaking world, permaculture is not confused with horticulture or agriculture, and make it a bit more social, economic, community building, tenancy governance, health, well-being, etc. Kind of put a spotlight on the other petals in the flower as well for the Spanish speakers, and also invite them into the CoLab. And then the main project I am working on this year is the IoT project, or the Inclusive Organizational Technology team. And this means that we are looking at how do inclusive organizations work around the world. We are highlighting some case studies. We're also looking at the terminology as such. What is inclusive? What is an inclusive organization? And what then are inclusive organizational tools that we can be using in our horizontal and inclusive organizations. So we're working away on those work packages with Mayi and Amy as well. And that is currently as far as my role in the CoLab goes, although I think I can say, quite on top of most of the channels on the Slack. I check every message and I read up on what is happening around the space so that I can, learn or take advantage of opportunities like this one and think back. Wow, it's been a while, but I'm guessing we're going to be coming to that question later, right? Okay, thank you. I'll pass on to Hans.
All right. So, hi. Yeah, I'm Hans. Who am I? I guess sort of the context that is useful for this explanation would be, well, I'm a professional permaculture designer, so I work with helping people do different things, from creating green spaces and gardens and plantations and things like that, to helping with community projects of different kinds, collectives and so on. Besides permaculture, I also have a background in the eco-village movement a little bit, mostly just through that I'm a trainer within the sort of Gaia education system, which is sort of the eco-village equivalent of, I don't know, the PVC system, I guess. So in the CoLab, how do I participate? Well, I participate in the workgroup that I'm working in, which is the, I always forget the whole name. Outreach and engagement, I think, is the whole thing. Which means I think about how we can present and share CoLab with the world, and sort of invite the world in a sense, both to be part of the CoLab to some extent, but also to take part in all the great things that the CoLab has, all the things that we've developed and the services we have available and so on. Which I think is a very, very important thing. Simply because, well, I guess we'll come back more to the history of things and then how it started and stuff. But I do feel like there's a lot that we've developed within the CoLab that is direly needed for a lot of the other sort of permaculture organizations around. And I really like the idea of, being able to, because I also feel like that's one of the main functions for the CoLab, was to develop all this, better ways of dealing with things, so that they could be shared with the rest of the permaculture world. And I think it's the rest of the permaculture world really needs it. So, I feel like, good, doing good work, as it were. And other things that I participate in, well, I don't really participate in much besides the circle that I work in, I guess. I do keep an eye on the Slack and see a little bit of what's going on, but I don't think I have a very good sort of view of the whole, as it were. It's quite a big organization with quite a lot of stuff going on. And I don't participate in a lot of the stuff outside my own circle, I think. Sometimes sometimes I think there are things that I would like to participate more in, but for some reason just the timing didn't work out, or so on. And But yeah, there's also just so much going on that some of it I will just miss, and that's quite all right as well. And yeah, I think that's about it, I think, for me. So let's see, I'll pass on to Amy.
Thank you. My name is Amy. I'm a Maltese woman living in Spain. Well, apart from this, I also teach permaculture and have been in the permaculture movement these last maybe 15 years or so. It's been a while. And how do I participate in the CoLab has evolved over time. So I started off by being a contributor in the Capacity Plus, and now I am active in the Next Steps project as a project manager, and also a working group member in various groups. And I'm also active in the funding circle and the digital circle, which was my first home. Digital circle was my first home. I would say that I participate in the way that inspires me to do. I don't participate because I feel like I have to, or that I've signed up for a job just to get paid. But I participate and give also my volunteering time to projects which really call to me. And it's a little bit of a passion project for me, the CoLab, I must say. And yeah, so I think more on that later. And I can pass it on to Jyo.
Thank you. Well, my name is Jyo. The Indian name is Jyotsna, which means bright moonlight. There's a lot more to that, but we'll just stick with the bright moonlight. Yeah, who am I in CoLab? I'm a co-founder of Minimum Viable Academy. It's the CoLab training program. It's connected to the CoLab training program, which you are all experiencing. This session is facilitated by that and sponsored by the Next Steps project. And I am also on the welcome and gardening team, more as an administrator, team connector, project manager, whatever that role is. I think we call it team herder. If I remember when we began the first initial steps in there. So that, and Emergent Festival Coordinator around, year 2 as well. Yeah, that's how I participate, and it's for the relationships. That's what is interesting to me more than the projects. It's who am I with the people that I work, and that's why I do the work. If I don't have a relationship, if I don't get into a relationship, then work is very difficult for me. So that's my weakness and strength together. So that's that's how I participate in CoLab. I'm gonna give some space to Rogers. I know you are new to the CoLab, but we still want to hear you about who you are and how do you see yourself in CoLab.
Oh, thank you very much. My name is Rogers Muteki. I am the team leader at Nasi Farmers Association. We are a youth-led organization operating and working in Uganda. Uganda is an East African country, for some of you who may not be knowing it. I was introduced to the CoLab by Maria Paz. She's a friend of mine. We've been communicating for quite long, and I was reading about the CoLab, and she was sharing with me a lot of things the CoLab does. So I realized there was need to be part of the CoLab because we are doing work related to permaculture, and the CoLab majorly does work towards promoting permaculture. So that is how I get introduced to the CoLab. But majorly, what are we working on currently? our work rotates around two things or three. Majorly promoting food security, nutrition security, and minimizing environmental damage. So all these things are done through promoting permaculture and agroecological systems. So of late, we are working in schools and training school-going students in best permaculture practices, and also we are training young people on setting up micro gardens to improve their nutrition in schools, but also encouraging them to transfer the knowledge gotten from schools to their homes. We are also working with households with children at risk of malnutrition and households with malnourished children, and training them to establish micro gardens and also planting early maturing and nutritious food. So majorly, those are some of the programs we are working on. I am so glad that I'm joining this huddle for the first time, and hope to learn more from you. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, we'll begin our second round, which some of us have already talked about. How did you find your way here, and how long have you been in the CoLab? And if we can move quickly, fast through this, we have a couple more questions that are more meaty and juicy. So I know some of us have already responded to that, but how did you find your way to CoLab, and how long have you been here?
Oh, like I did mention, I was introduced to CoLab by Maria Perez, and I've been here for a week. So yeah, I'm just new in this.
Thank you. Eileen?
So you want me to just stick with those two? Okay, right. So 2018 at the European Conversions in Ireland, I am sitting down with Andy Goldring, and we're talking about the CoLab and that it's in need of somebody, an assistant. There's a role opening up. And we're talking about the whole, the last few years before 2018 were very active. There was a lot going on, etc. And so Andy lets me know about this. I get looking at the CoLab. What's all this? I start speaking to Philip Grunewald. And so I am invited to apply for the job. I did not get it. Nenad gets the job, but I am in the CoLab then. So I get to know the whole ecosystem. I get to know Naomi, and we're starting to map out the system, who's where, who's doing what, which circles are there, etc. And I tried to invite more people in, like people from the Spanish Academy and people from PermaMed, my association on Mallorca. And Mandy is there for a little bit, and Maura Gamble comes in for a little bit, talking about the youth and all that, but it's all very chaotic and some people are paid, but the others are just not, until new funds are secured. And this is when we have an opportunity with 5 women that I recruited, being me, Mei Ling, Maggie, Claudia, and Luisa, to start the translation circle and to be working in Portuguese, French, German, English, Dutch, and Spanish. So that's kind of our goal at that time. Yes, let's get this out in all of the languages because we need to go broad and wide. This is also COVID time by then, so we're needing to be online more than being able to connect in person. The translation circle as such the design that we held there was great fun, but the activity on the Slack, for example, was was overwhelming for some of the team members. So Philip being there and quietening my worries about, oh my God, Slack is so overwhelming, was a great help. Also, by this stage, which is not the very, very beginning, but like the second part, I'm very grateful for technical tips and tools that Nenad is sharing throughout the Slack space, because he's kind of like the Slack, and use this and do that and type this here and keep sending private messages. If you do that, then things are easier to find. So I think that was maybe how I got to be on top of Slack, because otherwise maybe I would have also left when my colleagues from the translation circle did, and when they said, no, I'm done now. And I'm like, well, why? I'm on top of things. So yeah, I think thanks to Philip in the beginning, and then Nenad with the practical tips and private messages. So apart from being in a work group that was welcoming and inviting, and since then every new project has also been inviting, and the relationship with the people in the work group is bringing a bit of accountability and wanting to learn more about people in different places. And actually just seeing you now, Jyo, makes me realize, oh, I miss you. I've missed not working with you this year. Last year was great. That's me. Thank you. Over to Hans.
So, yeah, I definitely heard about the CoLab before I had any contact with it. I was also at the European Permaculture Convergence in 2018 in Ireland, and yeah, I remember talking with Steve. What's his last name? I forget his last name. Anyway, British association guy. He was also. I'm not sure if he was.
Carter.
Yes,
Charter.
Charter. Yes. We were working quite a lot because I was involved with the Swedish Permaculture Association for many years, and I was one of the people driving the international outreach for them and sort of international cooperation. So I was part of starting up the European Permaculture Network back in 2016, I think. And that's also how I first met Nenad, who was also involved there. We did some work together around that time, and I was aware of the CoLab's existence, but I wasn't part of it for several years, like from for sure in 2018, probably earlier than that. But it wasn't until I guess 2020, 2021, around there, when I was, during the pandemic, there was a lot of one thing that happened in many contexts I saw, but also within the Swedish Permaculture Association, was that there was a lot more new kind of power struggles and conflicts and stuff coming up. So a lot of the sort of the board, the sort of management backbone of the organization just collapsed, and so I was just simply kicked out entirely from all my roles, all the work I'd done. Everything was just gone. In 2020, 2021, right around there. And there was also just a lot of sort of latent personal conflicts still in the air around that for a long time. People were still sending angry messages and stuff. Anyway, around that time, this would be the time around the Next Steps project, I guess. I'm not sure. No, or one of the. No, it was the previous one. I'm not sure which one is which. Anyway, there was a role opening up within that project, and because Nenad had been I've been in contact with Nenad about other things also. There was a previous to that, there was a role opening up in Ecolis where he had me in mind and suggested me for it. I didn't get that one. I didn't really apply for it very much, to be honest. I was sort of, hey, Nenad said I should do this, so here I am, sort of thing. I don't know. I think it was kind of similar for the first sort of CoLab role that I was suggested for, which I think had to do with the evaluation of the previous project stuff. I don't think I applied for it very heartily, but either way, I was there, and that was my first sort of starting inroads towards CoLab, and then prior to the beginning of the current project, which I guess is the next step project. Right, it was the Capacity Plus was the one before, yeah. Anyway, so for the Next Steps project, I was part of it, like even from the early meetings of planning and thinking about what we wanted to do and what we wanted to be, and already then I very much had in mind that I wanted to bridge the gap and sort of bring CoLab back to permaculture organizations, and that eventually led to me getting the role that I have now in the engagement and outreach work group. So how long have I been on the CoLab? Well, for the duration of the Next Steps project, I guess. So that would be around almost 2 years now. I guess it's a year and a half-ish, kind of, somewhere around there. So that's how long I've been a part of it, and I think a lot of that time was just spent adjusting, at least in the beginning, was spent just adjusting to what this is, what is the CoLab, and what is this work group, and what are we doing, and what's going on, and it's still kind of a different model of work than what I'm used to from previous things. So in some ways, I guess I'm still adjusting, but I feel much more comfortable, especially with the people that I work with within the engagement and outreach team. But a lot of people I recognize from other places, and just enjoy connecting with the little that I do otherwise as well. And yeah, I think that answers the question. So I'll pass it back to Amy.
Thank you. How did I find my way here? I found my way here through a kind of personal crisis. I was having like a 2-year break after I quit my wealth management job, and I was trying to transition into a more healthy and more ethical income design. And I got talking to Gemma, who's the education officer at the pub, and she suggested that with my skills I could maybe fit in well with the digital circle. So I filled in the little form on the website. I didn't know much about the CoLab at all, actually, even though I had been into permaculture for a while. I filled in the form, and Philip organized a one-to-one, and that's how we got talking. And he said, perfect, I have something already in mind for you, and if you're willing to pull your socks up and do the work, then after a trial period you could take on more stuff, because we're just at the beginning of a funded project, which was at the time Capacity Plus. So I took on that first job, and that's how I found my feet at the deep end, because the job that I took on was controversial. And now people who know me know that doesn't scare me one bit. But of course, I was in a new space with people I didn't necessarily know, or maybe some people I knew, but from the movement and not really personally. And that created a big hoo-ha. There was like a big rocking the boat there with that piece of work. But it also, I think, gave me enough confidence then from there to be able to move into the Capacity Plus team. So then when people, I think it was Neynat, the first one who had left the Capacity Plus. So I came in as Neynat was leaving. And I had a really good working relationship with Philip Grunewald, Naomi, and Neynat. At the time, those were the three people holding that space. And I really admired how they held it and how open they were to new ideas and stuff. So this, I think, gave me like permission to be creative and to feel like I don't need to be afraid of saying something, even though it may not be so popular, right? And that was how I came to the CoLab. As Eileen mentioned, the chaos and the uncertainty, yes, so much of it. And it's a persistent kind of state because of people coming and going. And of course, there is the impermanence of it, that we don't have funding forever. What do we do after this? How do we change and adapt to the situations that come up? And now as project manager for the Next Steps project, I even feel it a bit more because I see it coming and I try to react and kind of draw attention to where attention needs to go so that we are able to deliver and continue as much as possible. I've been here a good 4.5 years now. Maybe 4.5 years is about right. It feels longer. It feels. But I also feel very comfortable here. Like I feel like this is my work home. Not that I don't work with my grassroots project, because I do that as well. But I feel very comfortable here, and I would like that other people also felt comfortable and at home, and be willing to rock the boat a bit, even when something matters to them from the heart. So yeah, that's my bit of the story right there.
Well, my story is short. I came towards the end of the Capacity Plus project. Naomi was my mentor, and I came in with the intention of looking at the ecosystem. How can we facilitate movement? I was coming in as a facilitator to do open spaces and do all of that. So I interned. She was also transitioning to other projects, so I was going to take on some of those things. And the Capacity Plus project ended, and it transitioned into Next Steps. And I, as you all know, the structure of the Next Steps projects, I signed up for roles, and then Ninad was the one who sent me to Naomi. Ninad and we'd been connected on the global regeneration CoLab. And then I found Amy, and it was amazing that we connected right away, and we were already visioning these amazing collaborations we want to get into. And then Ninad, Amy, and I invited somebody else, some fourth person, Stefan Morales from Greater Than, to create a unit, and that is what Minimum Viable Academy is. Then Stefan left, Amy and I left standing. We two are here from the beginning, and we always had the intention. I love training and facilitating. I love anything that has to do with learning ecosystems, learning of self, learning of the others, learning of what's in for us, togetherness, and all of that. So it just feels right for me to be in CoLab, navigating those spaces. Yeah, those are my humble beginnings in CoLab. There are a lot of people I met. Yeah. It's a journey. You meet some, you lose some. Rajas, you've already yeah, you've already mentioned how you came. The next question, as Amy puts in, is what helped you become more active? So now we are moving more from storytelling to look for patterns as to how we engage and how we invite engagement from others, so we can actually study these patterns and create processes, spaces where everybody, just as we found our way into CoLab, we can invite them to look at these patterns and subscribe to these patterns, or reject these patterns in how they want to get active within the CoLab. So your question, or your exploration to share, is what helped you become more active, and what advice would you give your past self? Eileen?
Yeah, I think I've already mentioned a little bit on what helped me become more active, which was like Philip being there, Nanad, actually listening to you. It's all coming back. Yes, of course, it was Naomi and Amy who were always having these co-workings. And with Naomi, it was hard to get together because it was always like 6 a.m. for her or something crazy. What specifically got me more active, I would have to admit, is having funds for the circle, the translation circle. So that was like, all right, because I'm not sure if it is the same in the Swedish context or in the Maltese permaculture movement, but in the Spanish permaculture world, it is definitely almost like Anglo go away. So our vision was like, whoa, we're going to get paid to bring everything together and to translate everything to Spanish. Yeehaw! So that was definitely a motivator. So if you would be looking at what motivates you, well, money. Plus, it was connecting with a function that we had already spotted in our global permaculture design, let's say, like what would the movement need to be doing for it to become more connected. And we definitely had this feeling that the Anglo permaculture is overwhelming everything, and smaller adaptations or branches or regenerative forms of designing are just not known because they are not communicated. So it was connecting money with a need that was already alive. And so what advice would I give myself for navigating the space? Try and connect more within the circle. So this is, I think, something that I am already doing. Maybe it's not something that I would give as an advice to my past self, because I would now say, well done for staying on top of the Slack and kind of knowing what other groups are doing, because I often see and think, wow, that could be actually something that we're working on together, or that is maybe not a duplication, but a different angle on the same topic. And staying on top of things also got me to the next phase, because I was actually not involved in writing the Next Steps project. I got the role because somebody else stepped out and there was recruiting going on, and if I would not have been on top of Slack, I wouldn't have seen the opportunity. And so that was a good thing, I think. So yeah, well done. Keep it up on top of Slack. That's it. Thank you. Over to Hans.
So what helped me become more active? Well, the funding was important. Like for me, I don't think I've ever really done voluntary work within the context of the CoLab. From the start, it was a paid role that I was doing. and that is quite important. Like I have had so many years of various voluntary roles, and I still have a ton of different voluntary roles. Basically, whatever I want to see happen in my context, in where I am, both physically in the world and in general, I try to sort of dive in and try to do stuff to make it happen. And a lot of the time that involves, just doing a lot of voluntary work that and I've on one hand I am I guess I have my own business, so I do have a lot of know all the responsibilities, figure out the budgets and all this stuff. But on the other hand, it's still never a natural or kind of built-in thing for me to ask to get paid. So in this case, with the CoLab, I asked from the very, very start, and there was never any question. It was part of, as the project started, I was, like I said, within the CoLab, I've always been paid. And I think that's one of the things that makes it so much easier. I actually could be a lot more active than I am. Theoretically, I have a capacity of putting in more work than I actually do, because, it's also like I mentioned it slightly earlier, that the sort of mode of work within the CoLab is different from what I'm used to. I'm very used to just diving in and doing a lot of solitary work on things, and just spending hours and hours and hours and hours getting things done. And that's just not been how things worked in the CoLab for me. I've almost always been working, all of my work almost, I feel, is tied to working with other people and tied to their views and their inputs and the process of communicating and figuring things out together. Which is sometimes really frustrating, because sometimes it takes a long time for people to get there. But it's also quite nice. I feel like when it comes to the tasks that I do, it's great. Like, it's very much a case of us sort of completing each other's skill sets. We finish the task because we collectively have the skill sets we need to do them. It's like, theoretically, I suppose I could have jumped in and done a lot more myself, but it would have been a lot worse than what it ends up being when we're working together. So I think that's really good. What advice would I give my past self as you start navigating the space? I don't know. I'm still kind of navigating things and sort of not so clear about everything. Still very much kind of just connecting with people and taking things as they come within the context of whatever, of the specific meeting or specific task that we're working with together, or so on. I suppose. I don't think I have any specific advice. If anything, I guess sort of relax. It's all right, as long as as long as the people are there and you're connecting and things are working on a personal level, then the rest will work itself out. Basically, because that is my feeling. Like I said, it's still quite a different mode of work to me compared to what I'm used to. But I like it. So yeah. So I think that's it. So I'll pass it on to Amy again.
Thank you. What helped me become more active, I think, if I hadn't changed my attitude in the beginning when things started going wrong, because I didn't know that the task I was assigned was controversial. If I had said, you know, yes, we have a bit money to do this task, but it's so difficult, like people are so being so hard about it. If I hadn't stuck with it, if I didn't have that persistence and also the support from Philip and from Nainad, then I wouldn't have stayed. And I think then in that case, the funding was actually counterproductive, because I took it upon myself to deliver the job, and I felt so much anxiety and pressure to do that, that when I was confronted with a little bit conflict, I was like, oh my God, this is not the place for me. Like, it's going to be a complete nightmare. But I persisted, and I think this kind of persistence and self-motivation is important for new people to overcome this like overwhelm, to learn about the different projects and find out about where your interests lie. I think if you don't have the persistence, then you quickly lose interest, because it's not a hand-holding ecosystem. You almost have to query the system in order to receive the support, even though the support is there and the people are more than willing to help you if only you reached out. So the advice I would give my former self is, Amy, reach out at the first sign and not get stressed out about it. So yeah, that's my top tip.
For me, what would help me become more active is have one-on-ones, which I have stranger anxiety. I don't know, I'm too adult to claim that, but I still, it's the initiation, like when somebody reaches out, I'm more open to having that conversation. Instead of me, I do not have the networking / connective that issue, more of a hermit in nature. So the one advice I would have given myself is invest in initial conversations. I would hermit a lot. I would like, oh, I only know Amy, I only know Nanad, so I would follow them. I'm like that little puppy with like, I know these people, so I'm gonna go wherever they go. Kind of instead of, you know, I'm gonna go charter my own waters. I still am not like that. So I don't know what will change for me. But I will say the one advice I will say is, when you connect, when I am talking to my past self, when you connect with somebody in a forum or in a conversation, take that additional step of reaching out in one-on-one and do more of that connective tissue to strengthen that. I still don't know if my past self is going to listen to me or even my future self, even when I'm saying this. I'm skeptical because I know myself too very well. I will say for the others, it definitely helps when you find that thread and you want to take that as a rope and go forward. Definitely helps. So, Rogers is not in the room. We'll move on to our next question. Is what was a moment you knew you were meant to be here in the CoLab? In other ways, what keeps you coming back again and again? It's just a different way of looking at it, but either questions are good.
Well, actually sitting on those straw bales in that field in Ireland, talking to Andy Goldring and to Steve Charter and to Mandy, and Hannah was also there from Earth, whatever.
Abundant Earth Foundation.
Yeah.
Abundant Earth Foundation, exactly. And so, yeah, that was like, okay, I need to be there. but that was in my expansive phase when I had just accredited my diploma. I was just going to be like, wow, it was my first international conversions. And I was like, all right, yes, now I finally feel like after 7 years of teaching PDCs and setting up the association, etc. Like now I think I need to go and see what is happening in the world, because I finally grasped the design process. So I think I have something to talk about with people. I understand things. And why do I still keep coming back? I guess because it is still always an interesting learning experience. Specifically last year, with the wastewaters as well, it was something that we have been wanting to do in our designers cooperative, like look at other countries and document case studies on the use of wastewater. So it's that multifunctioning possibility, I guess. So whereas in other spaces there may not be resources to cover my time for doing just that, what I'm doing. And in this space, it can be useful for myself, for my own professional activity, and also for other CoLab members and for other permaculture designers in the world. And yeah, somebody has put the funds up for this, so that's amazing. So I keep coming back because I keep learning and I keep seeing the multifunction in things. Yep, that's me.
All right.
It's your go, Hans, I think.
Yeah, exactly. I had to scroll up to find the list of speakers. But yeah. So what was the moment when I knew I was meant to be here in the CoLab? I don't know. I don't know if there was a moment. No, I just kind of I guess it's just, and this kind of answers the question also, what is it that keeps me coming back? It's the connecting with people and working together and seeing the work happen and be good and feel good and sort of keep going in a good way. I think that's what makes me feel I belong, because obviously something good is coming out of it. And also what brings me back is seeing that something good is coming of it, and also just enjoying working together, because yeah, it's like I said earlier in the earlier question, it's a different mode of work. It's been a lot more collaborative. Simply, and that's something that works, and that feels good, and that really makes me want to continue. And I also still very much see the potential of the sort of role and context that I'm in, the context of outreach and engagement. I still feel like there's so much more connecting with the rest of the permaculture world that could happen, and so much positive things that could come from this that still isn't there. So I'm definitely sort of still very engaged in hoping to get further as well. So I guess that's another thing that brings me back, the sort of want. I mean, on a sort of more personal level, in a sense, CoLab is one of the things that sort of kept me believing in the potential for permaculture organizations in general, because again, I saw some of the very ugly sides of it. I really saw things not work very well, and there's so many examples of it. I think it's not a permaculture specific thing. It's something that struck me the other day, how much in general across organizations and contexts doing good things, how just the social sustainability aspects aren't there, and that no matter all the good stuff that I've done or that people have done within all these different contexts, it always tends towards the typical sort of social unsustainability things, which is, being caught up in specific people and their kind of either their own circle of friends or their own egos or whatever, and it's just them, and everything becomes about them sooner or later. Sooner or later, it's not about the work; it's just about the people. And I've felt that was just never the case in my interaction with the CoLab. It's always had a much more thought out and structured setup for everything, where I never felt that things were just run by people trying to do things because for their own sake, in a sense. And that's, yeah, again, that for me, it gives me hope in that, there is such a thing as a good organization, and that this is something that we do definitely need to share with the world. Yeah. So that's that, I guess. So passing on to Amy.
I think for me, it's definitely the people and the creative collaborative work. I wouldn't be here if I didn't find creative people like Jyo, Eileen, Hans, or Kate, or anyone else I work with that really lets their imagination run wild and really comes up with creative solutions that we can all work towards. So yeah, that's what keeps me here. That's me. Check.
For me, it was not one moment. It was more about a cascading moments that just have deepened, which is again the people that I find, the relationships, and the freedom to be myself. I think that's what when I found that, I was like, yeah, I need to be in CoLab. So, okay. I am going to move. Rogers, do you have any thoughts on that? We are moving very slowly, by the way. I know you are just a week old in the CoLab, but I invite you to listen in to finding your moment in that CoLab, and perhaps we'll do this again in another 6 months to a year to come back and see, invite more people. But for now, please use the chat if anything comes to your mind, Rogers, to share. But I would.
Yeah, sure. I had actually lost it because of network. Yeah, I was saying I'd actually lost it because of network, but yeah, I am fully back. And
That's
yeah, yeah, I think from what people have been sharing, I just caught up with you. Me personally, being new here, I will talk about why I participate. So majorly, and how I feel being part of this network. I anticipate finding like-minded people, innovative people, and people who love innovative. I've been sharing innovative ideas, and it is one reason I long to be here. So, like I did mention, I am excited. Yeah. So thank you.
Thank you. The next question, I know we have 15 minutes and we have about 5 minutes to wrap up in that 15 minutes. What are the biggest challenges you see that CoLab is facing in the immediate future? We talked about funding was a big incentive for us to be active and involved. Yeah, and then how might we overcome those challenges? So if you want to keep it brief, we want to finish this round in 10 minutes. So noting that.
So in one short sentence.
Yeah, well, and basically it's said already, what is the biggest challenge that I see coming up is the funding is going to go away and the CoLab will not yet be self-funded. And I think that is a real shame because I think we're just about to move into a really interesting phase, really opening up to more cultures, continents, and languages even. So how can we overcome them? Maybe keep up this line of work and maybe keep moving into those other continents and other directions so that we can get lots more little bits of energy from many people and something will hopefully emerge. But we need to give it the space, I think, to connect with lots more minds and a lot more different contexts. My idea.
Yeah. So the biggest challenge I'm facing, of course, funding is a huge one. Like I wouldn't be here if there weren't funding when I started, at least. And I think, what can we do to help overcome? I think just help and support the people who are looking for finding ways to get us more funding. And I certainly could do a lot more with that. And like I have a lot of past experience with funding projects and helping design funding plans and all this stuff. Yeah, so, and I'm certainly available to help out. So that's a big one. And I think another challenge that I see is again the thing that first drove me to work with the CoLab, which is just having CoLab connect more with the rest of the ecosystem, with the permaculture ecosystem, because I feel like it's in a way such a given position to support the rest, but we're not quite there yet, in a sense, and yeah, I don't know. That's not a challenge that we will overcome before the funds run out, as it were. So I think the funding is probably the more pressing issue, but it's still definitely one of the things that drives me to be here, and something that I will keep working on. What can we do together to overcome it? Well, that's what we're working with in the outreach and engagement work group. So it's just we will keep at it, as it were. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, I echo Eileen's and Hans's, I think, responses there. And the only thing I would add is that any solution or how might we come to it is that together is the answer. And in the next year, we will have spaces where we can co-create together solutions to overcome these challenges that we're identifying. And I'm looking forward to it. I'm sure it will be an interesting circus.
I think for me the biggest challenge is distributed leadership. I think what I'm not seeing is more leaders emerge in their own circles. I understand somebody taking initiative, somebody doing that, but Aimee is the biggest bottleneck and also the biggest strength that we have in the CoLab, and we have to address that. That's the biggest challenge for me that I see. If we want, I'm not just talking about the immediate future, like I'm talking about the long-term future of sustainability, right? She's the biggest strength, but also we cannot, yes, it's her passion. Yes, I've heard you, Aimee. It's your passion project, but there need to be more passionate people who are invested in the CoLab. from a big picture perspective. Yeah. And what might we do together to overcome them? I already do this, but I also want to step into more of that leadership role. Again, allowing grace and compassion for my hermitude. At the same time, supporting other people to emerge into that leadership and look at from a systemic perspective, where in CoLab, how do we enable that? Yeah, so that I think the systemic leadership needs to come forward more than just group leadership, which we do great, right? I think there is autonomy in the groups and all of that. The processes are there, but the leadership is not there. So processes do not continue to live on their own without the leadership. So understanding the role of leadership to be more central for the life of this CoLab as an ecosystem would help us. I repeated myself more than 2 or 3 sentences saying the same thing, but we have a good I want to invite Rajesh. If there is anything you would want to share, please share it in the chat. We do not have too much time to be on the voice. But the last question, it's a fun question, I promise, is if CoLab were a water body, what would be that? CoLab were a water body of water, which would it be? And we don't ask the why, but if you want to keep it a why as short or share it in the chat, that will be awesome. That will be something that we can actually reproduce in our artifact too. So, Eileen.
That's the worst question you can give me. Well, there's just all of them on the list. So I think it would be a natural pool, and the ecosystem tends to take up to 3 years to settle without too much meddling. And I'm wondering what that would look like then once the funding of this project, although actually, no, I don't even want to go that way, because it's like, oh, the funding's going to go away. Ooh, Who says the funding is going to go away? But, yeah, I think that the natural pool maybe still stands, because it is an ecosystem that starts with somebody putting in, okay, we're going to put in this, the aquatic plants, and we're going to put in some clean water, and then at first there's some algae and some greenery, and until the biofilm starts, being a living being. It takes some time, and sometimes, yeah, it's with ups and downs, and we need to have patience and confidence, I think, in settling out and any ecosystem, finding the balance. That's it for me.
All right, that's me. I was thinking a body of water. I was just thinking the ocean. Like, I guess technically there are many oceans, but they like all belong together. So it's really all just one big body of water that covers the whole world. And also it was the place I'm in right now is an old fishing village. Originally, and so it's one of many places that grew up around water, and water was sort of the connecting way to connect people. Beyond the local for such a long time. So I like the idea of CoLab as just the connective tissue thing that connects us all, and so why not the ocean, right? Yeah.
At the last call, I thought about the river, because it feels to me like it's always moving and changing, and then in the summer it will dry up a bit, and then when we have more energy or more to put into it, it swells up, and it winds, and then it changes course, and then it forks, and then there's things being born and things composting and other things seeding, and yeah, lots of movement. So that's where I see it. But natural pool sounds good. I like that one.
I still think last time I mentioned this. Growing up in India, we used to have clay pots where you would put water and the water becomes cooler and you can drink from it, right? Especially in the summer when you are thirsty, and there's always a pitcher of water ready for you. We don't know. I grew up in a joint family. I never knew who would keep it full or ready to be accessible, but somebody would always fill that water. Sometimes it would be me, sometimes my grandmother, sometimes my uncle, my brother, the maid, whoever, but there was water always ready for consumption. With this, the last question of emergent leadership, or at an ecosystem level, the big picture leadership that's want to sustain the future, stewardship feels more like the term there, but active stewardship. I feel like that water pitcher still is very relevant for me. Is somebody needs to continue to monitor and think through how can we continue to keep that cool water to quench our thirst, and sustain life in CoLab. So I would say that. Thank you, Rogers River, readily available and accessible in communities. Well, thank you so much. This is us doing our best to create engagement and invite others to share their stories, share their stories. Share their stories. I'm dyslexic. It's so natural for me to do this. What we commit to doing out here is we are going to look at some of the patterns that are emerging and how others have responded with these questions of the challenges, and how might we come together and share that insights in artifact format. We are known for our artifacts. If you have not checked out, please go to Minimum Viable Academy on the PermaArt page website, and you will see our production of work. And please give your feedback. Aimee, please go ahead and share the feedback. That feedback, I mean, it's essentially geared towards the impact feedback of how this session has helped you or will help others. So please take a moment to write that. That is how we will be measured in the work that we do. And please help us meeting our expectations of ourselves. Anything you want to add, Aimee? Aimee and I are co-facilitating here. I'm not the only one.
That's okay. Just an appeal to you, and I think especially Hans and Eileen, you are now quite seasoned people in the CoLab. So please, if you see struggling newcomers, to remember your past self, where you started, and hold that hand so that we can make more connections and people feel welcome in our space. Thank you so much, everybody. See you at the next one, whenever that is.